So here we are, we're back on the beach again, not far from Bournemouth, taking the opportunity to speak to some special customers of Nurturing by Nature. So I'm joined by Phil and Henry and Indi.
That's correct.
So Phil, just give us a little bit of background in terms of who you are, and then I'd like you to tell us more about these two special people.
Yeah, right, well, I'm Dorset born and bred, brought up north of the county, Sturminster, Newton, Stourbridge direction. And then in late teens, did a tour of the country, just exploring the place in and out of the military. And then on sort of wanting to work out where I wanted to put my roots down, felt there was no better place, having seen a good portion of the country, that Dorset had everything I wanted to, everything to offer that I needed, really, with countryside, enough business here to forge a living, and obviously the beautiful coastline that we're surrounded with. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Fantastic. So tell me about these two. What's their story?
This is Henry and Indi. I mean, I grew up with dogs all my life. If they couldn't find me in my cot or in the correct place, they'd find me asleep in the dog's bed. So yeah, I was born and bred with dogs growing up, and once became an adult and earning enough of a living to afford an extra mouth to feed prior to having children. We got the opportunity with Henry. Henry was a rescue from another family. He was 9 weeks old, and there was a 2-year-old child in the house who didn't know he was a living creature and was carrying him around by the back leg and put him in the washing machine and things like that. So he needed an out, and quickly. So a friend said, "Would you like to meet him?" When they brought him round, they brought everything with him. You know, he wasn't leaving again anyway. So
it was a done deal.
It was a done deal. The second we even agreed to meet him. But yeah, so he entered our lives. He's 9 now. He's got a mega frequency. He's into everything. But yeah, we love him to bits. So, and the other one is Indi. Indi's another rescue, although he's an Irish puppy farm rescue. He's 7 now. We didn't know what he was going to be until he finished growing. This is the finished article. But yeah, a very, very loving little creature. Had a rough start to life, and once we met him, we said we weren't going to give up on him, and yeah, it took about 3 months to get him through the doldrums from all the issues, kennel cough, anything wrong, you name it, he had it. But yeah, he has managed to get him up into a very healthy, lovable little creature.
So how old was he when you rescued him?
Around the 10-week mark.
Okay.
So yeah, both very early in their lives. So yeah, tiny little things.
Fantastic. So tell us, when you got them, what did you feed them on?
Well, yeah, we just immediately investigated the supposed best kibbles at the time. We weren't very well educated. I wasn't a party much to feeding my dogs growing up as a child. That was pretty much down to my parents. We were all out playing football or rubbing our faces in mud. So, but yeah, they when we investigated sort of supposedly the best of the kibbles and got them onto one of those brands. So yeah, that and Bonio treats and things like that. Just what we were sold by the media, really, without actually having much of an education in it.
So what made you start to question that as a diet?
I had a personal journey with diet and nutrition, whereby about 2.5 years ago, I very unexpectedly was diagnosed with cancer, and they found a tennis ball-sized tumour growing on my right kidney out of nowhere. No symptoms or anything, just it supposedly popped out of nowhere. I had a massive operation to remove it, and they thought they'd got all of the with good margins. But while I was recouping for that 3-month period before the next scan, it had come back with a vengeance. There were sort of 40-odd tumours taking over my right, the tissue around my right kidney, the site on which the original tumour was, and it had metastasised up into both lungs. So there was about 10 down around the kidney, 10 on this lung, and about 20. We stopped counting at that point. There were more, but they were the visible ones. And they gave me about 12 months to live without a decent reaction to the treatment. But luckily, a revolutionary new treatment had come out, and they said, there is good hope with this. And I said to them, what's the fastest anybody's ever recovered from this? And they said, well, we don't really know, sort of 2-3 years, if you do well. And I asked around for good news stories and they couldn't give me any. So I started investigating things myself. I went down, I looked through YouTube, I spoke to people that had been through the same myself, and they started pushing me onto this, watch this video, watch this course, etc. And a recurring theme started to pop up beyond health and fitness, beyond keeping fit, and staying positive. But healthy eating was the recurring factor in all of it, and cutting out carcinogens, so on and so forth. It was eating a lot more fruit and veg. But basically, the bottom line was that people found success through nutrition. They'd done other bits, but like I said, the recurring theme was nutrition. So I reset my entire sort of life plan at that point. Thought, been given 12 months to live. What am I going to do to give myself the best fighting chance? I'd got a 3-year-old daughter at this point, and also my dogs. I'd like all dog owners do, sat there and thought. Having had dogs before, I know that they only have a finite lifespan and that they will pass usually before us. And I had that sad thought of it's going to be a very sad day when I'm going to have to say goodbye to these two, because I absolutely adore them. But obviously, on being told you've got 12 months to live, one evening shortly after that, I was sat there with these two thinking they're actually going to outlive me now. As it turned out, I did respond well to the treatment, and we do think a lot of that had to do with the change in nutrition. I stopped putting processed foods through me. The less processes, the better. A lot more natural fruit and veg and stuff like that. And I became probably healthier than I was prior to the treatment, and the diagnosis, etc. So that was how I got this education for myself. But it wasn't too long after that I suddenly thought, well, I love these two to bits, and I would be absolutely devastated if I hadn't done the very best for them I could do, and allow them to be the very best that they could be. But on further investigation, it turns out I was giving them kibble, highly processed, full of stuff that they didn't need, and it's okay I say it's okay for a human being. It's not okay for a human being to get cancer, etc. But cancers are dealt with. There's millions put into research and diagnosis and treatment to allow people to recover or survive and then recover from cancers. But the same level of investigation and remedies is not afforded to dogs. They are generally made to feel as comfortable as they can feel for whatever length of time they've got left, and then they'll just allowed to pass. So I started looking into other ways of feeding them, and one of the recurring popular and successful themes was raw feeding. That was.
So how did you come across Nurturing by Nature, and how did they help you with that journey?
They were great. They had a professional consultations option on their website, whereby you could speak to one of their specialists and basically ask them anything you wanted. And obviously they having living and breathed raw feeding since I think it was 2004 now. They had all the information on hand to be able to say how to almost wean them off of kibble. Don't literally just switch it off like a tap, but gradually work them onto a nice plain based protein, which was 100% chicken, and then slowly introduce more proteins into their diet so that you could see which ones the dogs worked with and which ones they didn't, because not every dog is going to love every meat. They're all individuals. And also to give them the right supplements, because obviously if they're going on to raw feeding and pure raw dog food, that they're going to need some form of supplements to give them the herbage, the veg that they need to have the right nutrition as well. So that was.
So what concerned you most about this process of switching from the kibble?
Price was one. There is obviously a price difference, which is, especially in the current day and age, everybody struggling to pay their household bills, etc. was one. But once I did the maths and looked at how much they would need as a portion meal, and how much I can buy, like the 500-gram packages that portions that Nurturing by Nature do. Once you split them up into their daily rations, etc., it worked out a lot cheaper than I thought it was going to. So it's a lot more affordable. That, and it was, when it came down to cost versus their health, again, through my own story, I couldn't risk putting them through what I went through without the possibility of them surviving. So, yeah.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to anyone else who was unsure about this?
To have a chat with one of the team, to let them ask or let them answer the potential worries that you may have as an individual. Part of it for me was also how to deal with raw chicken on a daily basis, the hygiene side of it. But again, it's all very common sense, provided you clean the utensils that are being used immediately, wash your hands frequently, defrost the food at the right rates, and obviously never have it leave it having it out for too long. And yeah, they've been on it for over a year now, so well over a year now, and they're both the healthiest and happiest I've seen them.
So what changes have you seen in them? How would you describe those changes?
Well, Henry, as I think just mentioned, is of a high frequency dog. He's into everything, almost to the point of twitchy, nervous. Very happy and loving dog, but yeah, a lunatic. He's definitely calmed down to a large degree. He's still a bit of a lunatic. He's still very high frequency. That is never going. That's gonna be his entire lifespan. He's gonna be like that. But yeah, the frequency, he's calmed down a lot more. So and the Whippet, both of them definitely had shinier, healthier coats. The Jack Russell did have a few small skin issues growing up, and we have suffered none of those since. So, and their stools, far less messy, far less bulky. On many occasions, you just end up sweep that almost turn into white dust now if they're in the garden for anything more than a 12 to 24-hour period. But yeah, a lot more healthy, definitely happier, shinier coats, and their stools are far less and less messy as well. But I can only presume that they're absorbing more of the food into their body than they were before, where the rubbish that's in the kibble I was feeding them was just passing through them. So
fantastic. So just kind of finally, I'd like you to complete the sentence for me. So the sentence is, I feed raw because?
I feed raw because it's given me 2 happier and healthier dogs, with the knowledge that I'm giving them the best fighting chance of a prolonged, happier and healthier life, without the complications that could have been brought by the artificial elements that are in the highly processed kibbles that we were feeding them. So
it's fantastic. Phil, thank you very much.
No, you're very welcome. Very happy to do so. So thank you very much for your time.